What's up, everyone, to a brand new episode of Power Spike. And this episode is brought to you by, bam, a whole new bag of Trolley Sour Bright Crawlers, the multi-flavored sour gummy worms that want nothing more than for you to chew their delicious sour heads and bodies into pieces. Trolley Sour Bright Crawlers crawl to the beat of their own yummy gummy drum and are truly unlike any other sour gummy out there. I did that one perfectly, just like Contracts played perfectly against G2. Welcome, everyone, Monte, Tom, and dGon to break down the second half of Swiss stage of the World Championships in 2023. Guys, how you doing? Monte, how you doing?
Great. dGon's staying in my apartment. We're actually doing the show from my apartment, both of us right now in Korea. He's been staying here getting all the interviews. So why don't you tell everybody about your glorious interviews that have gone out, because they've been popping off.
Yeah, they've been pretty great. I've got Palafox right afterwards. That one popped off pretty big. I have one with Contracts. I can interview Contracts every time now if I want. It's pretty great. I have one Contracts coming out soon. I have one with Carria coming out soon. I put up one with Canyon today. And then I have one with Light and Elk as well. So lots of different perspectives on how it's going. The one with Canyon was pretty good too. I asked him straight up. I was like, "Hey man, this is your worst performance so far. Do you feel like, you've been playing with Showmaker for a while, you've been on D+ for a while. Do you feel like you need a change?" And he answered me, so you should go check that one out. Tom, how about you, man?
It'll remain a mystery. He said, "Yes, I would like to go play with Chovy now." That's what I'm imagining that he said.
He answered it straight up. I was like, wow, that was interesting. Like, I feel like a lot of time people are wishy-washy.
Yeah, for my money, I mean, the two people I would keep on that team are Canyon and Showmaker. Like Deft's performance, I mean, Deft was just bad at this World. Like, he had some really, really, really rough games, and everyone knows about Kana and Kellen. You don't need to talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing my thing. I've been co-streaming all the games. And then also I have been, I sent Don Jake to Korea. We've been getting our interviews, which are a little bit different than dGon's interviews. It's more just, he just griefs players for like 15 minutes straight, and then we just upload it, which is a different experience. Like, players are not normally used to just being like trolled live in front of a camera, with a guy who's a borderline stalker at this point. So that's the type of content that I'm producing. That's what I can get behind, and that's what I paid for. So that's what we're doing.
I will give Jake and his team a shout out, though. I'm surprised how methodical he is towards his work, and he was like cool to hang out with. And he's been real personable as well, so given other North American journalists or Western journalists that normally come out here and aren't really as personable, it was really a nice breath of fresh air to see the way that he works and see how much he thinks about the Ruddy esports cinematic universe. So that it's a good shout out there, and it's been great to see all the other Western journalists that are here, just because it's such a celebration. Again, Worlds is such a celebration, and normally just getting together is a celebration, but I can't wait. I can't wait till we get to the NRG section. But before we get to the NRG section, we got to talk about the reason why we have an NRG section. It's our first segment of the day. It's time for Fraud Alert, y'all. Hey, if you like to count things in kilometers and liters and other weird units like that, this might not
anyone
be
not
time
American at this point. Yeah.
Yep. It's Fraud Alert. We're talking about G2. Let's get to it. All right. G2, y'all. They were the hope of the West. They were considered a 5th LPL seed by Asian. Like, I was looking on Twitter, like they were like, this is our 5th seed. And they got walloped in the second half. How fraudulent is G2, given the fact that this team is built for Worlds? This team is built for big moments, and they didn't make it out of the group stage. Monte, let's start with you.
I mean, look, we can talk. I think the narrative, obviously, there's a lot of memeing that's going around and people just being happy about North America. But dismissing G2 is, I think, quite silly coming in, considering that they had a pretty hard road. I mean, they successfully beat D+ and Weibo before running into Gen G. And sure, like, obviously, they had 2 other best of 3s to redeem themselves. It should have been a cupcake match versus NRG. But this team coming in did look like by far the most complete Western team. They had a number of really, I think, quite good performances. And it seemed to me that they potentially did not take NRG as seriously as they should have. We saw another Western team Belveth incident like we saw with Cloud9. And taking risks in a best of 3 is very different than taking risks in game 1 of a best of 5 where you have more of a cushion. And I also think they ran into NRG playing probably the best League of Legends they've ever played. And to NRG's credit, they have repeatedly risen to the occasion. They pulled off a number of upsets in the LCS playoffs. They actually won LCS, which at the time appeared to be an overperformance. And I think it was also reasonable to doubt NRG considering that their only 2 wins coming into that matchup were Team Liquid and Mad Lions. And the Mad Lions game was one of the
Really
worst.
ugly.
It was one of the worst games at Worlds, period. It was fucking terrible. Like, they had no business winning that. So, I mean, I think it was not reasonable to think that NRG was going to win this one. However, I did bet on them on esports bet because they had 4.5 odds. So I did come out pretty well on that. So I didn't believe in them, but I did bet on them. So it worked out for me in the end. But yeah, I think G2 definitely underperformed on the day, but also maybe I'm wrong about this again, but I don't expect to see that level of NRG. This may have been the NRG peak.
Dom.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think G2 getting dismissed. I'm with Monte on G2 getting dismissed. It's just like way too far the way that people react to something like this. Like there was only one series that I think G2 heavily underperformed in, which is the NRG series. If you look at even the BLG series, like BLG is a team that could end up being one of the best teams in the world. Like BLG could make finals. You know, like they beat Gen.G last time they played against each other. They beat the shit out of Gen.G last time they played each other. Let's be honest.
They had the best LPL regular season record ever.
Ever 15-1. And I think that the thing about BLG is that the T1 loss is going to make them a better team because they're not going to just keep on trying to play like Orianna Azir. They're going to go back to Yagao champions. They're going to play Vi Ari, Vi Talia. They're going to play, you know, Silas when it's open. So that's not even a bad loss for G2. The only bad loss that G2 had was the loss to NRG. And I think the main thing is they got completely out-prepped. I felt like NRG's like draft strategy coming in, I thought that was like it was such a smart drafting strategy, and I think that they executed it really well. Like the first pick Nico, I think it really neutralized a lot of what Cap's advantage over Palafox could be. So I think that G2, like, people just go way too far with the reactionary take where it's like, oh, it's like, obviously I'm memeing, like I'm on my stream, I'm like, oh, it looks like NA is better than EU this year. It's like for the whole year, EU was better than NA. Like if you watch EU, like if you watch G2, they played at a higher level than any NA team for the longest time. If you look at like MSI and you watch how they played versus Asian teams compared to how like C9 just got like booty fucking blasted 6-0, didn't look like any of the games were even close to being won. You know, like G2 was the best Western team for the entire year up until they played NRG in that match. And then NRG was the best Western team for that match. So I think that, like, obviously it's a great story for NRG. And I think that the level they played at when I was watching the series, I thought about it and I was like, this is one of two of the best matches I've ever seen NA play internationally. The first one was that Cloud9 game in Season 4 Worlds, the first one of their best of 5 versus, I believe it was Samsung Blue, where they...
Oh,
the
Rumble game, the Balls Rumble game, right?
Yeah, so they won one game and then they lost the next 3. It was either that game or this game that to me was like the best performance I'd seen from a Western team. Just like the level of aggression, decisiveness, like when they started Baron, they instantly turned. It was like, what the fuck? Like, who is this team? I've been watching them all year.
Yeah.
Just even look at how they played versus Mad Lions. Think about their lead versus Mad Lions and how fucking disgusting that was. How they kept on throwing over and over again.
Think about Palafox's stolen Talia ult and then compare it to the decision making in this game. Like, he made like the worst possible decision in that game. And I agree with Dom. Like, the snowball here was really convincing, especially in the first game. I do think that the second game was a lot closer than most people, than the narrative that went on about this. Like, the second game was not a stomp by NRG. But the first game, they really ran with the pick composition. They forced their advantage in bot lane. They were rotating very effectively, like playing out of the mid lane and then using Abyssal Voyage to attack the side lanes and collapse really, really fast. I mean, they looked extremely coordinated. I mean, it was a great game, particularly. I think Ignar was actually very underrated. Everybody's talking about Contracts and Palafox, but Ignar was fucking great this series.
I mean, I think Contracts played one of the best jungle games like in all of Worlds in that game number 2. The game 2, like Jarvan game, I was like, what the fuck? Is he just the best jungler in the world? Like I was watching, I was like, this guy is so good. Like his Jarvan was way better than like Kanavi's Jarvan, for example. I couldn't believe what I was watching. So it was really impressive from the NRG side of things. I think that like G2 maybe slightly underperformed on the day, but I think more than that, NRG just played literally the best league that they've ever played in their entire lives. Like, yes. I mean, that was probably the best performance we've ever seen out of a North American team at Worlds, period. So when I'm watching it, I think that people run too far in the narrative of being like, oh, G2 is just like, they actually were terrible and now they're exposed. It's like, no, we saw them play MSI. We saw the level that they were playing at. I mean, they weren't a perfect team, but they were definitely the best Western team for the majority of the year. And then we get to see the same narratives that normally happen with North America now on Reddit about Europe, where everyone just overblows and they're like, oh, it's the format. The format is bad for improvement, so none of the teams can improve. It's like, can we just please just calm down a little bit and just like accept that it's fucking sports. Upsets happen in sports. That's the reason why you watch it. If NRG could never beat G2, it wouldn't be fucking fun to watch. So like the upsets happen. Like it was a cool upset to have happen. It brings some life into the EU NA like rivalry, because like let's be honest, EU had just been outperforming NA for the last like fucking since season 4, so the last 10 years essentially has just been EU like outperforming NA, so it brings some life into that. And yeah, I mean, we saw an NA team actually play a coordinated like, you know, game of League of Legends, like 2 coordinated games of League of Legends at a high level. So it was nice to see. I think that it does go too far when it comes to how people react to it, and they want to like change everything about the system, the players, and you know, the whole like European structure, which for the most part has been a more successful structure than North America.
Okay. You know, I was listening to both of you guys. You know, I'm listening to Dom, and you know, I feel like I got the 2 angels on my shoulder, right? Where it's like, yeah, you know, you're positive dGon, you're the positive one here. You know, it's just sports or whatever. Yeah. You know, it like that's what it is. Europe was and is, I think, as a region, more talented top to bottom than LCS, NA. I agree with that. But just hold on 1 second.
Oh no. Oh god.
Get this real quick. The only hat I had here. I couldn't help it, Dom. I can't help it. It's time. It's time. It's not called football. It's called soccer. You know, how many times do we get on North America based on their results? Oh, it's another Worlds. We're getting another disappointment. You're talking about my Western GOAT, Caps? He just got outplayed by Pala Faker.
Pala fucked.
Yeah. You're talking about BB, Broken Blade. Well, his blade got broken by Big Dokes. You know, you're talking about Mickey X, probably the best support in the history of the West. He got outplayed by Ignar. He's not even from here, but we're going to consider him one of us. You're talking about Han Sama. We already got bad version of Han Sama. He goes over there, Europe, he looks like a world beater. He got beat by FBI. And we count him as one of ours because he's from down under. And that's where he put it right into Han Sama. You know what I'm saying?
He put it down under Han Sama. True.
Guys, this has to be somewhat of an underperformance, because every time Cloud9 gets their ass kicked and they're the only ones that are making it through, it's doom and gloom. It's doom and gloom. G2, is this the end of the dynasty? Is this the end of the era? Are they ever going to be good again? I don't know. But what I do know is that my flag is red, white, and blue. My sports usually involve hands and feet. And my fries aren't freedom. They're French. Yeah. North America.
All right. There we go.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
There we go.
Well
we
done.
Needed that.
Yeah. Look, it's just
you
crazy.
Mastered the accent.
I just see the Kokona accent and I know what it is. Again, when we had LCS finals in Raleigh, North Carolina, I went to school an hour away. So
there we go.
I heard all the time. Okay. I do think, though, that on a fraudulency level, again, it was just a week ago, and all of us agreed the Western hope was with G2.
I mean, they're still the only team they're the only Western team that's beat an Asian team at this entire tournament.
Correct. They beat an Asian team. When I was looking at Weibo beat a team that qualified in. All of NRG's wins came from teams that are out. So, that's why the discourse that was happening on Reddit and on Twitter that like NA versus EU, EU is trash, blah blah. NRG needs to win one more game to like fully end those conversations. Did they qualify? Yes. Was it a product of the draw? Absolutely. Like even contracts in my interview said we got lucky with the draw.
That was the best possible option, I think.
Yeah, it was. But for the first time in like years, a North American team accepted the fumble. Like they didn't just they didn't fumble the fumble.
Look, and it was a G2 fumble for sure, but I don't want to take away from how well NRG played because they did show up, and that even if G2 is playing badly, it's the way in which the wins occurred. It was the decisiveness. It was playing to the win conditions of their team composition. It was the pace at which they played the game. They closed out, especially game one, about as well as any team you could expect to close it out, right? And you could only take what's given to you. Yep, it looked really good.
It was really good. Like the way that like they even prepped for the Baron, where they have Palafox sitting in the top tri-bush. And then they know that like obviously Vi can go over the wall. So the way that they pulled the trigger and then like Contracts goes in, kills the Kai'Sa, flashes over the wall. Like it was just like, who the fuck like is this team? Like who is this team? Because that was always the problem with NRG. Like think about the games that we watched them play. Like not even just recently at this Worlds. Think about some of the games we watched in regular season. How about that Immortals game? Week 1, day 2, where they have like a 15k gold lead, and they just can't win the game because they just don't go to the right objectives. Like they've had some like horrific macro games that like even the worst teams like
they didn't even want a free Mountain Soul versus Mad Lions one game previously.
Yeah. And then this game they got it all together. I will say the prep was like really fucking good, and I went on a rant about R5ing jungle.
Yes, you did. I remember.
Yeah, I went on a rant about R5ing jungle and how NA teams do it, and it was like disgustingly bad and not to do it. And what did we get from G2 in this game? We got the R5 Bel'Veth. We got the R5.
Cloud9 showed how good it was. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you remember when they beat T1?
And I mean, this Bel'Veth is literally, there's so little thought going into it. I'll tell you what the thought process is. Do you remember when Mad Lions played it into BDS and they played that Bel'Veth Vi matchup where the Bel'Veth went and invaded enemy Raptors and Vi just contested it and lost the whole game? Vi is the weakest jungler that's in the meta level 1 compared to like all the other junglers that people like. 2. Vi is just by far the weakest,
and level
right?
2 as well. Yeah, first 2 levels are fucking horrific.
Yeah, the first 2 levels are terrible. And Bel'Veth can get a lead on Vi really easily. There's essentially no counterplay to it, unless like the Vi has super hard pushing lanes or like a really strong 2v2 bot lane at level 1. They have like Ashe Braum or something. Generally what happens is the Bel'Veth can just invade the enemy Raptors, and from there, like if you're good at Bel'Veth, you invade enemy Raptors, take away the red, then you just cross through mid into your own Raptors, hit level 3 off your own Raptors, and Vi just has to accept being down. Like essentially the Vi gets 4 camps and the Bel'Veth gets 10, or it gets 8. Sorry, probably the Crabs too, so it might end up being close to 10. That's just how the matchup functions. But Contracts was just able to like accept that. Like there used to be a time when Vi started coming into the meta, right? This is like the beginning of summer in 2022, where every Vi player was just behind like 2 levels, and then they would just hit level 6 and it wouldn't matter, and they would just be completely fine in the game because of like catch-up experience and stuff like that. Vi is actually one of the champions where you can accept being behind because, like, number one, if they invade you, your camps will come up like earlier. You just want to hit 6. Like, you do Drakes really well, so if you have nothing to do, you can always start a Drake, always start a Herald. Vi is a champion that can accept being behind. And when we saw it before, the Vi did not accept being behind. The Vi was trying to like contest Bel'Veth's like Raptors, and that's what puts you really behind on the champion, is if you start buying into that Bel'Veth game and you're just like you're trying to fight him over the camps, when in reality you just have to sack some stuff and play for your strength. So this was something that I saw out of G2 that I've hated at this tournament. The pick there is Jarvan, by the way. If you want to know what he should have picked in that game, it was a Jarvan game. He was playing against Senna, Nico. Yeah, that's the best thing that he could pick in that spot. And instead he went Bel'Veth. Didn't make sense, and they ended up losing because of it.
Yeah. I talked to Contracts about that in my interview that'll come up later. I said, hey, you're pretty weak there. What was your thinking with the Bel'Veth? He's like, oh, well, I knew he was going to take the chickens. So I asked the guys, they weren't going to be able to dive him. So just harass him at Krugs. And that gave me enough time to go down, hover over, and then just not get set too far behind. So they were thinking about that stuff, Dom. And it's like so nice to hear what you're saying. And, you know, us as like, you know, with Godview and knowing matchups, we've always talked about, we have pros that don't think about the game enough. They just go through the motion. There is Contracts syncing up with the rest of the team, making it make sense, and then being able to play out from there, mitigating weaknesses based off of draft, the weak part of their draft. So it was a nice run. It's a nice run, and you know it's hopeful. But let's rate it now, guys, on a scale of 1 to 10. Fraudulency of G2. You've already laid out only one fraud loss. You know, compared to the matchup against BLG and the matches that they had beforehand, they had 3 opportunities to qualify in because they were 2-0. Where do you rate them on fraudulency 1 to 10?
All right, so I think you really just have to disentangle expectations from this because we didn't expect G2 to be a semifinal team unless they got a very preferable quarterfinal draw, as in what happened to NRG, right? NRG does have at least an outside shot at being a semifinal team because of the way the draw played out. And I think you have to say, like, how fraudulent was it? They beat D+, they beat Weibo, they expectedly lost to G2, right? And then
Gen G.
the surprise...
Yeah.
Or Gen G. Then they lost the upset game to NRG, playing some very good League of Legends. I think it was NRG played well enough, played very well, so it was actually a respectable loss in many ways. And then you get to BLG, which is a matchup that they were not favored in. They had their shot.
2-1.
Yeah,
Like,
they had their shot.
1-2.
And yeah, I mean, they almost lost it in game number 2.
Yeah.
That was nearly a quite a significant throw. But they got lucky that Elk couldn't end the game because he decided to step up into Nico abilities at the end, and got a second shot at the game and did close it out. But I think this team, they defied expectations of being as good as a kind of 4th seed LCK LPL team, but I don't think anybody reasonably thought they were as good as the top 3 seeds in the LPL or LCK coming in. There was a pretty big difference in skill between the top 3 LCK teams and D+. There's like a pretty big like tier gap, and I would say the same thing about the LPL teams with Weibo. So they slotted themselves, they wedged themselves in between that tier pretty effectively. But at the end of the day, they lost to 2 of the teams we would expect them to lose to, and lost to one team that was an upset, but also was still the first NA seed and also played the best League of Legends we've ever seen these guys play. So,
yeah,
I would say
it's
6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going way lower than that. I think it's like a 2 or a 3 out of 10 from G2. Like, essentially, they lost one series. Like, they've lost like 2 series they shouldn't have lost all year. You know, like that, like the one versus Mad Lions that they should have won in spring when they were playing. Like, they won 3 out of the 4 splits in LEC. At MSI, I think they had a respectable performance. Like, they were able to take games off teams that were just better than them. And you know, I mean, like, what are you gonna do about that? They lost. They almost were up 2-1 versus BLG. They ended up throwing that game 3, and then they lost in 4 to BLG, who ended up being the second best team at MSI. I think that's respectable. And then if I were to look at all their matches that they played at Worlds, the only match that they played poorly in, or like, you know, they should have won and they ended up losing, was the NRG one. So for me, I think that this is like I'm not gonna say that a team is like 10 out of, like, if you think about the scale, right? And like, I'm saying that teams like FlyQuest are like 10 out of 10 fraudulency, or like 9 out of 10 fraudulency, or, you know, Vitality, that's a 9 or a 10 fraudulency. Like, how can I put these guys like over 5? Like, they had one series that they should have like lost, and then it's like most of the time, what we have expected, right? They beat NRG, they get into quarterfinals, they just lose the first match at quarterfinals. Maybe they could have beat Weibo or something, but expectedly they would like ones if they just get T1 or LNG, like the draw could be way fucking different, right? So I don't know.
Yeah,
for me, it's like a 3 fraudulency.
I rate them a little bit higher, just especially because I do think that while they had some good reads on the meta, I'm still a big fan of the Lissandra into the Rakan, and I think you can see the effectiveness in that game too, because I think they had an excellent draft in game 2 against BLG, and they did through gameplay almost throw it, but you almost saw that could have been a very clean snowball in that game had they not overextended and just played a little bit more controlled around the objectives and not tried to take fights and like push the lead too hard, because they could have kept rolling with the compositional advantage that they had. But I think you have to, in some ways, they also had kind of a poor read. I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but it looks like champions like Senna are going to be increasing in priority. They appear to be quite strong. And in this case, I just wish we would have seen more priority on Hans Sama playing Jinx or Senna, like the later this went on, because he's never been a good Xayah player, and that was clearly an issue for them, and they were trying to find solutions to this problem. And you know, at the same time, though, the rest of his teammates have to pick it up. If he's drawing Kalista Draven bans every fucking game, somebody else is going to get a pick that they should be able to carry on. And then you look at the
or he should be getting the pick that he should be able to carry on, which is the Xayah. Like that's my problem with it.
He can't play Xayah. He can't play Xayah. Like,
exactly.
His career win rate on Xayah is something like 44%. And this is a guy who has like a 57% career win rate overall. So it's well below average for him.
But that's why I don't like that argument that much about like he's drawing bans, because like he's drawing bans that are not like bans that I think are opening up like things for other people. I think that they're opening up things for him, and teams are just exploiting the fact that like Xayah is considered mega OP, first pick by every single team, essentially. It doesn't matter what you play into. People have tried to counter it with like range, poke, everything that Xayah is susceptible to. It ends up not fucking working at all. So it's like he's getting exposed because he can only play 2 champions that are not like meta. It's the same as if, you know, you had players like, for example, Viper, not the Asian Viper, the NA Viper, who was like drawing Riven bans. It's like he's drawing Riven bans and getting to play like really OP shit, but he's just better at Riven than he is at the OP shit. And I think that actually doesn't like help the team that much.
But we've seen the rise. Look, one of Hans' all-time best champions is Jinx, right? And we've seen the rise of a lot of these Jinx picks. There are ways you can kind of work it into compositions right now. Same thing with Senna. And these are champions he's been much better on in the past, and they didn't really explore these options for him either. And then on top of that, you have the whole like broken blade top lane issue where he was actually just straight broken by Bin in the top lane in that series. And if that top lane matchup,
which is expected, by the way,
sure, but that's Bin has been the best top laner in this tournament, so it's also overstated to say how bad broken blade is. Bin has been fucking unreal so far.
Oh, he fucking took a dump on Zeus, like the Grog is Jax matchup. Like,
so yeah, he's been shitting on kids. So, but that is, I still think it's an issue that we haven't seen the most meta champions out of Broken Blade top either, right? Some of these power picks need to come through, or you just need to take things away from Bin as you can and try and stabilize that matchup. But it felt like the champion pools, the effective champion pools of Hans and Broken Blade were just not there. They had run out of options by the end, and they had played enough games. That one of the disadvantages to playing in 3 best of 3s is that there's a lot of tape on you, and there's a lot of research that the teams can do against you and figure out if you have limitations.
I mean, it wasn't even that much tape. Like, honestly, I think that everything would have been way better for G2 if they didn't draw Genji and Genji didn't expose them so hard earlier. Like, when Genji drew them and was like, the way you beat this team is Draven, Kalista, Ori bans. When they did that and everyone was like, oh shit, is that really all there is to it? And then everyone just did that the rest of the time. Like, they did that hard to T1 exposed.
Too. Genji's research has been really good. Like, they come in very well prepared. Think about how hard they clapped T1 in the LCK finals after KT struggled mightily, when they're just like, just ban Xayah, Azir, Nico, and then T1's like, shit, we can't do anything anymore, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, again, shout outs to I don't know. I guess how do you encapsulate this G2 year? It was successful up until Worlds. I guess for me with the fraudulency, it's just like this team is built for Worlds. This organization is built for Worlds. It's built for at least making it to group stage. So one of the few times where it's not it feels less shades of gray and more binary, right? It's either they did succeed or they didn't. And in this case, especially to NRG, like I think that's what makes it why it's like a 4 for me or something like that. It just feels just way higher because this org's built for excellence. And so, yep. All right. Well, there it is. Rest
if it makes you feel better, G2 fans, you probably would have lost in quarters anyway. So you basically only got to see.
If you drew Weibo, maybe you could have won.
Maybe you could have won if you drew Weibo. If you got, but did you have NRG's luck? That's the real question. Did you have the luck?
Not the case here. All right, let's move on forward for a nice little palate cleanser. Let's talk about two guys that qualified on
well,
the
to be
final
fair,
day.
palate was cleansed relatively early on in this tournament.
Well, another palate cleanse.
He cleansed a North American team before he was cleansed. But, you know.
The Korean North American team. The Korean American team.
Yeah,
God,
true. It's the LCK being dog shit, to be honest.
APA saying, I had APA interview with APA remote, him saying like, I said, hey, what were the talks like backstage after you lost? He's like, I don't know. They were all in Korean. That shit was super fucking funny. It was such an honest answer. And I try to protect the players or whatever, but it was also very funny and insight into the TL squad stuff. Let's go into keeper kick. We're talking Kiin versus Xiaohu. Remember, we had the Kiin pain going on. Xiaohu is one of the GOAT solo laners, right? Made it at the top lane, now back in mid lane. Which one are you going to keep? Which one are you going to kick after their Swiss round performances? Let's get into it, y'all. All right, Monte, lead us into it. Keeper kick. Kiin Pain or Xiaohu the GOAT?
All right, so a lot of people have been talking about both of these guys as potential Dade Award candidates, but let me just put this to bed. You can't win the Dade Award and also make the bracket stage. That's not how it works. Like, you have to be a top player who completely shits the bed and bombs out of the tournament, and you have to have a lot of expectations. Like, I don't even think Mickey X was good enough. Like, people were hyping him up as the best Western player, but we weren't hyping him up as like a top 10 player coming into this event. Now Xiaohu, obviously like an all-time great player, is really struggling. I'm clearly going to kick Xiaohu because Kiin has had a great year, and the narratives around Kiin are just so fucking ridiculous. As usual, people claiming that he is an international choker, that he was never good this year, when in fact, I think he was the best player in LCK in summer. And he's still, look, I haven't seen exactly what I wanted to see against Kiin. His Ornn game where he was just TP-inting was terrible. But he also has crazy versatility, and I just wish KT would use him better. Bring on the Quinn Renekton counter picks. That's what I say. I need to keep Kiin in order to see those picks, where I feel as though Xiaohu has been overall worse so far at this event. And weirdly, I think the Shy has been one of, if not the most consistent player on Weibo. And maybe it's not just not Xiaohu's. What?
I said that's scary.
That. Yeah, it is. But I mean, we don't expect Weibo to go that far. KT might not go that far now that they're against JDG either. But...
Oh, they're not going far. They're not going far.
We'll talk about that later, Dom. I have wild KT theories that I would like to believe in. I'll give you my copium KT theories later. So I can't stand Xiaohu at this tournament. I just don't think he's had some of the same upside as Kiin, and I think a lot of KT's problems don't come back to Kiin in most of these games.
All right, Dom, you've been watching every single match of both these guys under a microscope.
Yeah.
Who do you keep? Who do you kick here based off of their, I guess, less than stellar performances compared to their regular?
I'm keeping Xiaohu 100%. Like, it's not even close to me because for like multiple reasons. So number one, like, I think Xiaohu's been playing worse at this tournament, but Kiin has been playing like at a lower level than he was playing at for longer. Like, as soon as playoffs hit, it felt like Kiin just stopped being good. Like, he was okay, he would have okay games, but I think that his fall off started way earlier than Xiaohu's. Whereas Xiaohu was like peaking in playoffs, like he was having his best games in playoffs and his best games in regionals. It felt like Kiin just became like an average player. I mean, like, I would say that, Doran, for example, has outperformed him. And when Doran's outperforming you in your role, like, that's just not normally a great sign. That's normally something where when somebody says it and you can't really like argue against it, you're like, ooh, that's, yeah, he must have been having some rough ones. So I think that there's that element. I don't think that Kiin's an international choker because he just doesn't go international like ever really. Like, so how could he be a choker? But Xiaohu has had clutch performances internationally. Like he's been somebody who I think is much better at like, you know, performing like and picking himself back up. If he has bad games, I think that he can just play well, you know, in future games and not let it really get to him. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like last year, for example, at MSI, I think Game 5 versus Faker, he completely shit on him. You know, like that's a fucking really clutch game, and he just smurfed on him. Like the lane phase was just insane from Xiaohu in that Game 5. So I think Xiaohu's just a more consistent player overall, and I think that he's been like he's had his period of bad play for a shorter amount of time than Kiin has, and you know I think that Zhao will be able to just get back in form, especially if he just goes back to the champions that he's good at. I think it's actually that simple for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, same thing with Kiin. Look, the narrative would have been very different around Kiin if he actually picked up that kill against Jax after he died in the second game against LNG. If he had come back and Zika got insanely lucky living a couple of times on Jax where he should have died, I think the narrative around Kiin is very different. If Kiin had actually picked Quinn in the final game of the series, I think the narrative around him is very different. I think KT, they're not leaning into Kiin. You got to lean into Kiin. That's what they did the entire...
I don't think they can pick Quinn. I don't think they can pick Quinn in that spot. I think if they pick... I think, let me go look at the draft, but I'm pretty sure that I acknowledge the Quinn, but I thought it was unpickable there. So let me look that up real quick. Because didn't they have like already like multiple 80 carries on their team, and it just would have made the game?
No, they had Azir in mid lane. This was the Azir game.
Let me see, 2023. I remember I thought about the pick and I didn't like it there.
So my argument is either you take Sejuani Ornn or you take Quinn Vi, but you don't do Ornn Vi in this match.
I think you do. I think Ornn Vi makes more. Like I don't like Sejuani Ornn because I feel like there's just no threat. It's just like it's all tank, no threat. I think Sejuani you pick with like bruisers mainly. That's my read there. Okay, let me see. So it was game 3 of LNG versus KT, right? Okay.
Yep.
So what did they have on this team? They had they have very minimal front line in this game. That's why I didn't like it. Because and also I think that you can't play Quinn into Wukong. Like if you play Quinn into Wukong, Aphelios, Azir, I feel like this Wukong's gonna be even more unleashed. I think Wukong's a turbo pick in that game already. But if you are playing Quinn into like Rakan, Wukong, Orianna, I just think it's way too easy to be killed there. I think Ornn makes sense. I mean, I think that in general KT's comp makes sense, but yeah, the Sylas ban was pretty weird to me. It feels like they banned Sylas only because enemy team had or their team had Alistar, so Sylas would have had an Alistar ult. I guess that's the angle, but still, I don't think that was a necessary ban. They're maybe afraid of like the Juani Sylas, but
the thing about KT is that they have been at their best when playing pick compositions, and it's not always that the Quinn really works into the composition. It's that they utilize it very well, and they're never really taking fights where they are undermanned. They are always up a player or two in the engagements, and they're really good at finding that, and they're really good at creating split push pressure with it. So I just want to see KT playing into their strengths, and I think the Quinn Vi does provide a huge amount of pick pressure in this game, and you can also play around the top matchup pretty effectively. So if I'm trying to recover this game, I think that's a better way to do it. But this is KT style, and this is what we've seen from Kiin, and we just haven't seen them playing into some of Kiin's more unique picks. Now we did get to see the Rise, which he did play in summer, and that was a more measured game by KT in terms of scaling. Now obviously the problem in the LNG game was that they were fighting stupidly for second Drake when they should have just been scaling. Like the primary issues were gameplay and not draft related, but I still would have rather seen some differences in the draft. So Kiin, I want to see him unlocked on some of these picks and see what happens, because I think they need to get a little bit more creative and unpredictable and throw some curveballs that their opponents may not have prepared for. And I don't want to see front to back late game scaling KT. That's not who this team has been this year. I want to see create vision traps, be clever with Nico clones, create picks, KT. And that's the KT that we haven't seen, but that style is predicated on Kiin. It is.
What is the, I guess no, not what is the worst, because we're kind of breaking down the toughest game that Kiin has had, and show and draft there. I guess the toughest game that Xiaohu had was the Niski pop-off game that they still won, but that was the big gap in game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Ornn game is probably the worst game from Kiin. Not like his lane phase was actually fine, but he just started like running it at a point.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, because other than my point was other than that game where Niski just took over and wasn't able to quite get the team across the finish line, Xiaohu's had some solid performances throughout on the Nico, on the Azir, on Orianna. So I feel like you go with Xiaohu here because he's been playing well, relatively well, had a couple of stinkers, but then with Kiin, we're talking draft here. We'll see if KT decide to play around it. You feel like just being there, and again, just kind of being here in Korea and seeing the fandom. Everyone wants to play through aiming. Aiming is the star. Aiming's the stud. They want their aiming to pop off. There are some some BDD fans, but it's mostly aiming for this KT roster. We'll see if the staff continue to play away from
aiming almost through the game against
he did.
Plus too by being a complete idiot. So
yeah.
We've seen the great great Kai'Sa ults, and then we've seen the sus Zeri wall rides that get your team aced when you have Baron. So it's the duality of aiming.
The thing about aiming is it feels like he's just best on like the mobility champions. Like his Zeri, Kai'Sa feel like they're on a different level than like his Xayah. His Aphelios was relatively bad.
He secretly has a pretty good Draven too, but he doesn't play it that much.
Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, I just feel like they're not a Draven team. Like when I watch that, like the KT Draven games, it's like I think that he's better. I think that they're better at just like allowing the game to come to them instead of feeling like we have to hard force through the Draven. I mean, that's like why it's a T1 champion, for example, is because T1 is willing to actually snowball the Draven ahead. But yeah, I mean, I think aiming is just he's good on the mobility champions. He's good on Kai'Sa. He was always good on Ezreal. You know, like Ezreal Karma was a huge thing for this team. In spring, for example.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's good at Zeri as well. So I think that's the thing about aiming is he has picks that he's good at, but the picks that he's good at are not like Giga S tier the same way that like Kalista and Xayah are so far.
Well, we'll see what happens with both of these two studs from the regular season if they can turn it around here for the rest of the knockout stage. Let us know at home in the comments below who you think you would keep and kick between these two in Kiin and Xiaohu. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button and check out all our other content. Next on up, it's time, y'all. We'll be taking a second in prayer for our fallen friends in our new segment, Devoured. It's time for the eulogies for those that have fallen and haven't made it on out. This is a reminder that this episode of Power Spike is brought to you by Trolli Sour Bright Crawlers. We can't get enough of their soft, gummy texture and absolutely love the surprising flavor combinations, like strawberry NA and cherry EU and orange GAM Esports. There you go. Make sure to head on over anywhere to get your hands on the tongue-twisting, mind-warping sour thrills. And if you need help, you can head on over to Trolli.com. Thanks again to our friends, Trolli.
Thanks to our producer Andrew, who brought these giant bags of Trolli to Korea with us in his luggage. So we got more of the sour bright crawlers over here. Because here they're not bright crawlers, they're sour glowworms from Germany, which is, I suppose, their original names. That's original name, considering it is a German company in its inception. So
look. Even Mrs. Jim and God Gillius, they love Trolli. Make sure to go ahead and write that in the comments below, and you have an opportunity to be featured in our presentation pitch to Trolli when we ask them to represent us next year. So thank you guys.
That's right. Yeah, come back, Trolli. We love you. Come back. And you guys love it too. So thanks a lot for all your comments on social media about Trolli. The hype is real. They've been a wonderful sponsor for us. So thank you very much.
All right, let's get into Devoured. Let's take a second. Everyone at home, join us. let's just put our hands together and thoughts and prayers for the teams that have fallen. You know, a lot of expectations here on the Berserker hype train. You know, a lot of fans were thinking that the repaired robo wrist of Oscarinen was going to be enough. There's a handful of fans that jumped on the bandwagon after defeating TL and maybe Gammy Sports. And let's not forget our mostly Korean-speaking North American team, Team Liquid. You know, their run ended pretty early. It's tough. So we're gonna do eulogies here. We'll start with Monte because Dom's not going to do any of them. We asked earlier if he would, and he said, "Why would I do that? All my teams made it." So,
Yep.
There were
All
no
teams I
fallen. By the way, low key, there were no Chinese chokes this year. Amazing. It's the first time in a long time that all 4 LPL teams have made the bracket stage.
Yep.
Yeah.
All we needed was best of 3s. Imagine if it was best of 1s.
And good matchups, you know, and you know, KT and D plus killing each other. That helps probably.
I think anyone would have killed D+. I'm gonna be honest. You can feed them to any Chinese team, they're gonna get fucked.
Oh, okay. Let's start there. Let's start there with D as our first eulogy. Monte, you can take this one. But I just want to give context. That crowd was the loudest I've heard. I had goosebumps when they would cheer anytime Deft did anything. It was like
did they cheer when
she's wailing.
Did they cheer when he built Gale Force and then Guardian Angel?
Guardian Angel both games. Like, oh my god, bro. Like, please grow a pair and like just do what Gala did. You see Gala fucking pull his team out of the fucking trenches with that Aphelios. Deft is playing easier games and he's going GA. Like, come on.
I just love it when people buy GA into like Viego Zeri. I'm like, motherfucker, if you're dead, the snowball has started. It is rolling. The resets have arrived. They're just going to stand on your corpse and gun you down again. Like, there's no shot to win. Like, if you are dying in that situation, the odds that your team is not getting sent to reset city by that point are basically 0. So you just can't even get to that point, right? You can't even get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was also the fact that like in those games, like he'd have more effective HP with a BT if he plays properly. Like there shouldn't be enough threat on him where he just gets one shot and he
had tons of peel too.
Skill.
He had tons of peel.
And in the other game, it's like he needs a fucking LDR, bro. Like he needs armor pen. Like Aphelios is not a champion that just has enough natural damage. It's not like one of these champions like Zeri, for example, or Kaisa, where they don't need a pen item because they do so much like mixed damage that you don't have to really worry about it the same way that like other AD carries have to worry about it. Aphelios is a true AD like attack damage carry. He only does mainly auto attacks, like and fucking like AD just damage, right? It's all AD damage. You need LDR. You won't do any damage into these tanks later on.
Yeah. Well, Damwon I guess DK just not quite enough there, and oh man, I'm about to say something controversial. I said it in the press room, and then you could start, Monte. But like, I'm glad that it's over. I'm glad that the run is over. I'm glad that the Deft storyline is over for the year, right? We've fucking beaten this shit into the ground. Red Bull did their documentary. Riot did their documentary. Fionn wrote a fucking article. Music video. Yeah, like I like Deft's storyline. I'm very happy that he won. He could have finished on top. He gave another go, barely squeaked on in. We saw like him beat his like world championship teammates to make it on through. I'm just glad that it's over now. It's like, okay, the gods are dead. There's no more world champions left. Please, let's move forward. All
right, here's my eulogy for D+ Kia. D+, you were overrated by the fans who didn't watch LCK. Those of you true LCK viewers knew that this team was mid and sus as fuck. They kept on switching out their support because Kellen was trash at shot calling, yet Bible was trash in lane. There was no truth in the Bible, it turns out in the end. There was no direction from the Bible.
Okay. All right.
And so you went back to Kellen, and your late game shot calling was completely absent, as it had been all year. Please, can you get yourself a either top laner who can carry with the lead, or somebody with a brain on this team to direct everyone else? Showmaker, you had a very mid-season. You were kind of average for a lot of it, picked it up slightly at the end, but you admitted you were burnt out. And now you are all free agents. Every one of you is a free agent. Will Canyon and Showmaker stay together? I feel like this roster just has to be blown up. You didn't live up to the expectations of Deft joining D+, which was a very hype signing, because you never actually had anybody to macro your good players. So there you go, D+. Try again next year. Maybe Showmaker and Canyon will be back.
Rest in peace. Also, shout outs to Ghost. Who knew? Maybe he was the answer, Dom.
No, it was Beryl.
Oh, God, please. He's not the answer to anything.
No, it was definitely not Ghost. It might have been Beryl.
Yeah. Please, let's never give credit to Ghost for anything he does ever. Period. That's it.
For those of you that play bingo, this is on my bingo card. It's try to remind Dom about Ghost. That's a good one.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, let's
He's
Dom,
living up to the movie Ghost by fucking D+ from the grave.
Yeah. No, I like that he has now became a complete ghost within the Korean esports scene, and he just is completely invisible when it comes to anything LCK. So well done,
Wow.
Ghost. I'm happy that I no longer have to fight against you. I mean, Ghost was to me the poster boy of when a team is dominant, when it's the best team in the world, all 5 players are the best in the world in the community's eyes. Like, this guy was so clearly inferior to the rest of his teammates, and people were still trying to find ways to make it seem like his impact was equal in a way, or that he provided something intangible to the team that other players couldn't. So, yeah. Fuck Ghost. Okay. That's it.
All right. We did see Nuguri make an appearance, and then obviously Beryl did the draw, but again, no Ghost. He did not show up during this group stage.
I mean, he didn't show up to half the games they won anyway when they were winning worlds. Like,
apt name.
Also, people slightly younger people, you need to go back and fucking get Monte's reference, because that was such a good fucking reference.
Nobody's gonna understand the Patrick Swayze
I know,
reference.
dude. That was such a good Patrick Swayze reference. If you got it, let us know in the comments below. If not, go watch the movie Ghost, and it'll make more sense. It was really good. Okay, next up, who do you want to do? You want to do Dom? I'm gonna make you do Fnatic. Think about
I'll do
Fnatic
TL.
here.
I'll
You can do TL. Oh, it's
Yeah.
too fucking easy, but go ahead. Former TL man, let's go.
Yeah, TL, I gotta say, the main thing that we learned is that even though you can import players from LCK, you can never import the right ones. We've learned this year and year after year. What was last year? Bwipo, Bjergsen, same thing. It just doesn't work out. How about for once you try to create a cohesive team? You try to create a cohesive team of players that make sense together, instead of having your worst 2 players be in the most important positions on the team. You know, for me, I would keep APA. He's an NA talent. Summit, it's time to fucking go to Turkey, buddy. Go to Turkey, go to Brazil. Like, you're just not cut for a major region anymore. The way that you play the game is so annoying. I can tell just the amount of stress your teammates are under at all times, just waiting for you to get a lead and in to never TP into a fight, or just force a fight mid-game or at the end of the game versus T1. You know, Cassante ult into the whole enemy team and have, your Aphelios on purple-red try to carry the fight. This team is the least inspiring team. And, if there's any positive that I can find in the situation, is that for some reason, LCK is somewhat to blame for your guys' existence. Like, you guys are more of an LCK team than a North American team at this point. So, thank you for at least giving me more ammo to shit on the LCK. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Not rest in peace, APA in his career. I'm very happy with, I guess, remember how difficult of a situation it was for him to slot on in, and the team did have to play around him and whatnot. One of the big talking points that came out of, I think, them getting knocked out was, the Ashley Kang interview where Pioshik was like, his champ pool is too small. We can't play around him. I didn't like that one as much, because Pioshik is a leader and he wants to be a leader. He's a world champion, and I wish he would have protected APA a little bit more there, knowing that APA is younger or whatever. But
number
we'll
one,
see what happens.
like, who gives a fuck about that? How about your whack ass performance in Game 3 versus Gam? Like, what about that, motherfucker? Like, you played Sejuani. Like, you guys are the high paid Korean imports on the team, right? Like, you and Summit are the high paid Korean imports on the team. How are you losing a 2v2 top to Gam when you have a winning 2v2? Like, you autoed a minion in the fight. Like, just because he cried, I hate this shit. When somebody cries, somehow it's like they're untouchable. You know, it's like, oh shit, like, let's not criticize his performance because he feels bad about it. It's like, dude, if you want to be real and analyze the fucking game, part of the reason he's probably crying. But it's like part of the reason he's crying is because he knows he played like shit in that game number 5.
Won't
or game number
3,
the elimination
the
game.
Overpaid video game players?
I don't know, man. It's like, it's so weird to have that performance. And like, think about Pioshik. Pioshik had the pop-off Lee Sin game that they ended up losing versus T1. And then I think that in this series versus Gam, he had a bad game 1 and a bad game 3. Like, his Jarvan game was not good. And then his Sejuani game, it's R5 Sejuani. You get an R5 pick, you go for the Sejuani, and then you botch the fucking top situation. Why is he untouchable? Like, why is it just because he cried? You can't say that, like, hey man, like, his performance was pretty fucking whack. If you consider him a world champion, you're gonna hold him to that standard where he should be like one of the better players at this tournament. I mean, you can't get shit on by Levi the way that he got shit on by Levi in games 1 and 3.
Levi, the great hope of Vietnam, stealing another one here away from TL. All right, I'll do. We still have like Fnatic, Cloud9, G2, Mad Lions, BDS. I don't know. We don't have to do all of them.
We're not going to do all of them.
I want to do Fnatic, which is fine. So here we go. Oh boy, what do you say to, you know, the team with the largest, most crazed fan base and most pressure on them? You do kind of wonder about their decisive game 2 opportunity to qualify on in and make it on through, that they rest the hopes and dreams on the disgruntled couple that we've been covering forever, locking in Lee Sin for Razork to go head to head with Weibo. You know, Oscar Innen, remember, let's not forget, Oscar Innen was Oscar out at the beginning of this, trying to fill it in the shoes of one of the biggest players in Europe. And it's no wonder that he struggled at first, but he found his form. You know, and sometimes you got to know a guy to really become the guy. And you thought that maybe Reckless would be there to help support Noah and help him grow, but wasn't the case either. He went on the analyst desk. And down on the bottom side with Trimby, that's another guy that it's just a great guy. He's just a great guy. He's a great guy. He's a really great guy. And had some really great performances in the past, but ended up just being a great guy. Fnatic, you are a roster full of turnover and a season where it was almost lost. It is a miracle that you made it here because you were about to not even qualify on in. You're about to be the FlyQuest of EU, you know, both Fs for your regions. But instead, you still made it on through. I don't know what's going to happen to this roster because it's pieces that all came together at the last second. But you do hope that you come back stronger and better because the world is a less happy place when there isn't sad Fnatic fans. Cheers. All right.
And please, can we just let the humanoid Razork experiment die? They're never going to have synergy, guys. It's not happening. We've been waiting for years. It's not going to be a thing. Please stop. Please do something. Free Razork from this hell.
I mean, the best part about this whole situation is watching them go for a 2v2 mid-jungle combo in game number 3. Like, the fact that in game number 3 versus Weibo, they decided to go for, like, the Silas pick, and they're like, we're going to gank mid. I just knew it was fucking over the second that they tried that shit. And you're going for Sejuani Silas. It's like, come on, man. Like, please. Like, just play a fucking control mage and let Razork just ignore mid like he wants to. Oh, it was so tough to watch. The fucking Alistar pick as well by Fnatic, the Alistar into Kate Lux, like, just kill me right now. Just fucking shoot me. If I'm on the stage, literally, I would take getting shot over having to play that draft.
I have a question. I have a question for you, Dom. Is Karma playable right now? Because I actually don't know if Karma is playable at the moment, but you would think that some of these picks would be making their rounds again if Caitlyn and Lux is on the rise.
I mean, Karma Ezreal, I guess, is something that they could play. But the thing is that the situation is that they have to first pick Aphelios because Noah is essentially Aphelios one trick, right? So that's the world we're in. I was even tweeting out about it before. They have to pick Aphelios.
Yeah,
because
getting
it's the only
Hook,
champion Noah can perform on.
getting Hook champs there is fine too. I'm just curious about the state of Karma because I assume we actually are probably going to see some Karma later on in this world.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we see some like I was thinking maybe we see some like Karma Ezreal into like Tom Kench Senna, maybe if like they keep on drafting Tom Kench, maybe that's something that we end up seeing. But yeah, I think that it's not even that Karma is like super bad. I think that it's just that Karma pairs with Ezreal and people don't really want to play Ezreal at this tournament, it seems like. So I don't know if we'll see, like, and Karma doesn't really synergize with Xayah, it doesn't synergize with Kalista, it doesn't synergize with Kaisa, and those are the best AD carries at the tournament right now. So and then like the what other ADs are we seeing? Like Fringe Draven picks maybe, like Senna Karma is like kind of a thing, but not really. So I just think that there's not lanes that are like conducive to the Karma pick. Aphelios Karma is not a thing either. So yeah.
Yeah, and people still have the memory of we're still waiting for Crowny's Qs from Ezreal to land. So they already have the example of what Ezreal looks like here at Worlds. So probably not something they don't want to pick up yet.
Yeah,
I would say that
just to Monty's point, yeah, it's just the Hook champion, just to make it clear for like the audience. You just have to draft a Hook champion there. You have to draft Blitzcrank. It is what it is. You have to draft Blitzcrank. You have to like try to trade flashes at some point, like level 2, and just pray your jungler comes bot.
So if you go back to that game, because I was backstage, we talked about it afterwards. You remember that Trimby was
Face bombing.
He was cycling through his champs in champ select. Noah just kept being like, I can't play into that, which is why they like last second, finally locked in Alistair. There was no right answer. That's that. And Oscar said that in the interview. Like by the time they got to that point in the draft, they're like, oh, we're fucked.
To be fair, it was a bit of a surprise because Light had not played. I looked it up. Light had not played Caitlyn all summer. Basically, had played.
I think no one played Caitlyn all summer.
Yes, this is also true. And he did have 100% win rate on it in spring, I believe. When I looked at it, I'm not looking at it right now. But this is not. They may not have expected. This is not something that they showed previously at Worlds, but it is something that we're definitely going to see more of. Especially like the big danger is probably from T1, right? Because they are extremely good at this lane, at the Caitlyn Lux lane, and at Caitlyn in general.
Someone in chat saying, is Light just the Kate goat? No, that's what happens in that lane. Like even in my shit tier, like solo queue games, you're just so fucked by Caitlyn Lux, Caitlyn Morgana, Caitlyn Brand. If you're Alistair affiliates, you can't do anything.
That duo just warps the entire game for both teams. And everybody has to play around it when it's in the game, because if you don't play around it, then they just take all your plates, rotate into mid or top lane, take all your plates there too. You have immense, pressure to take early drakes and start that snowballing process. And if the Kate is ahead, the problem is that Caitlyn traps are legitimately one of the best abilities in professional League of Legends because they're unclearable choke control. So if you start getting a lot of priority and you're first on objectives and you have vision control, then you put the traps down and then you just take free objectives forever. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem if you don't deal with it. And you certainly can't deal with it by picking Alistair. That is like literally the worst pick because you just get shoved you at level 1, and then it's a train wreck because the Alistair is then chunked out. So by the time you're able to all in, if their jungler's covering, you can't win the 3v3 either. So it's just a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. And there was one opportunity for Trimby and Noah to get the headbutt pulverized onto Light, and Light flashed out of it. Like we saw it. That was the only play he had. I asked Light about it in his interview. It'll be on there. He's like, that was the only play he had. They were low on HP. I knew it was coming, and he outplayed it, and Trimby just, left with pizza in his face. There's nothing else that he has. And they just suffered for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's real suffering. I mean, especially if you think about Aphelios lanes too. It's like the way Aphelios lanes is you start on green, red, right? Like those are just the guns that you start the game with. And that into Caitlyn Lux early game is super miserable. You have to go 3 pots just to exist. And by the time that you actually hit that like level 3, level 4 power spike where you're able to cycle your guns to blue, purple, and that's normally when you can start finding like kill lanes as Aphelios, you're just so like weak. You're so chunked out that you don't even have that window. So you just literally suffer the entire time.
It was suffering. And it's just, It makes me feel better as an AD carry because I see that shit in my solo queue games. So to see like, the best players in the world have to suffer through that too. It's like, oh, okay, not me. Just not me. All right. Any more eulogies? Is anyone feeling, Monte, you feeling any more that you want to hit on?
You want to do Cloud9 real quick?
Yes. All right, let's do it. I want us to all chime in on this. This is going to be a 3-person eulogy for Cloud9. Dom, I'll give you the easiest one. You start.
Well, Cloud9, you've done it again. You've disappointed us again. But I'm happy that, for once, what do people normally say? You would want Cloud9 to be your pallbearers so that they could let you down one last time. At least you won't be letting anyone down anymore because your whole roster is fucking doomed. So congrats. You had a good run. You guys never lived up to your expectations internationally. The way you guys played all year was something that you could see a mile away was not going to be conducive to winning against Asian teams. And at the end of the day, you couldn't even beat Western teams. So congratulations. You guys have really made the least out of this roster.
Monte?
I think that Perks, it's time to hold Perks accountable for being the last time that Cloud9 made a bracket. Remember those threads, North American fans, where you were shitting all over Perks? Well, it turns out he was still clutch when it mattered. He was still able to win the title and get you guys past the group/Swiss stage of the World Championship. M&S, despite having, I would say, a better tournament than I thought he would have, was not enough. There is no firepower on this team outside of Berserker. You guys lost shamefully, despite Blabber being the best player on this team. You guys couldn't put enough you couldn't put together enough synergy to beat the negative synergy of Razork and Humanoid. You lost to a rookie top laner. Fudge is just not that guy at international events, and he hasn't been since his rookie season. Berserker looks, frankly, quite angry to be on this roster at this point in time. I think he is probably going back to Korea at the end of this season, unless Cloud9 makes the decision to rebuild around him and his lordship Berserker deigns to stay in the LCS. So this, to me, is feeling like M&S is definitely gone. Who do you rebuild around? Maybe Blabber, and you just kick everybody else out. But it doesn't feel good to be a Cloud9 fan right now. And I doubt Berserker, your best player, wants to continue on this roster.
Cloud9, you guys have grown together as a bunch of friends plus M&S. And wait, hold on. Did you hear that? I think Sven just died in the river again. I'm sorry. And I think that you learn over time that friends are put in your life for a reason, and sometimes they're put in your life for a period. And it might be that this period is over. The post-Perks period is over. The Sven support period for Cloud9 is over, because I think you got to build around Berserker. And I know that Blabber is the Western GOAT, but you're right. Anger does not solve things. And hopefully you'll be able to channel that anger into some wins next year, to a group stage success, or I guess Swiss stage success. Cheers, Cloud9. All right, there you go. Sorry, Cloud9 fans. That's a tough one. You're normally used to making it out. Isn't that crazy? Cloud9 and G2 don't make it out. That's usually it's one or the other. In this case, both of them don't make it.
It's time for M&S to go back to Europe, where he belongs, the worst region.
What was they go back to OC, but who knows?
I know that they just moved on from the BMW sponsorship, but they were right. They were still united in rivalry, both knocking out at the Swiss stage. All right, we'll call it there. Those were the eulogies here for Devoured. Again, thanks to our friends over at Trolley for sponsoring this segment and this whole episode of Power Spike. Get your tongue twisting, mind warping sour thrills at trolley.com. All right, y'all, it's almost over. Again, we've covered a lot. There was a lot, but we're going to Busan. Time to head on. I am actually literally taking a train to Busan to go. Hopefully no zombies this time. It'll be good. And we got to look forward. We've got 7 teams trying to chase the #1 team in the world, the favorite to win it all. No, I'm not talking about NRG. I'm talking about JDG. So let's take a look at it in this week's Galaxy Brain Club. We're predicting which teams will make it on out, which teams will make it to the finals. Let's get into it. All right. So we've got our odds here, thanks to our friends over at Esports Bet, with the matchups again in order. So the Thursday matchup, Weibo Gaming versus NRG. Then we've got Generation Gaming against BLG. We've got favorites JDG playing against KT, and then LNG and T1, where somehow again T1 are the favorites. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, we'll go NRG first. Okay, Weibo NRG. This is the best possible draw that we could have gotten from NRG. I think all the Eastern teams are scary, but this feels like the most likely chance to win. What do you think, Monte?
I think that Palafox in many ways continues to be lucky in all of the matches that he plays. Very weak mid laners domestically. And now straight into a Xiaohu who is not playing particularly well at this world championship. This should be a potentially winnable game for NRG. If it's now, I don't want to infer that they are going to stay at this level, because we have now seen the NRG versus G2 level. And we've also seen the NRG versus Mad Lions level. So it's been wildly different in terms of ceiling and floor for this team. But that criticism throughout this entire year could very easily be levied against Weibo Gaming as well. Do they beat JDG in best of threes? Yes, they do. Do they lose to absolute shitters in best of threes? Yes, they do. So, it's I think this is a really tough one. However, with NRG, they have kind of played to the level of their opponent a lot of the time. I think that's a fair thing to say. And is this going to be North America's first semifinal berth since Cloud9 defeated the Africa Freaks 3-0?
Africa Freaks!
Which was a more legit win, to be fair, at the time. But it feels like there's an outside shot that this could actually occur, considering that these are probably the 2 weakest remaining teams in the bracket.
What do you think, Dom? Someone in chat was asking for you to make the blueprint for NRG to beat Weibo.
The blueprint for NRG to beat Weibo.
Yeah.
When I think about Weibo, the thing that's weird about Weibo is it's not really that Weibo has any significant weaknesses when it comes to the things they're able to play, but sometimes they just draft things and beat themselves. I think that Rumble is extremely important in the series. I think Rumble is one of the champions that just kind of counters the Shy's entire champion pool. Douglas should never be playing Renekton in the series. I know he likes it. Do not play Renekton into the Shy. He'll pull out Gnar and he'll shit on you in this lane. I think a lot of it comes down to trading OPs, I would say, for NRG. I think that they need to be willing to opt into things like Xayah trade for Nico, for example. They need to try to get some of their own power picks and play a game with a lot of OPs up, rather than trying to ban standard things and see who's the better team overall. I think they need to really try to open up everything and trade some of these OPs, especially into Xiaohu. So, I don't know if there's a direct angle. I would just say that the best thing for them to do is to really ensure that they get their own picks and not care too much about what Weibo has.
And also, I think it's hard for Weibo because it feels like there are more and more champions that you just have to ban in order to deal with NRG, especially with the Senna Tom Kench coming through. So it does feel as though NRG is going to get some power picks in this meta because of the more fringe bans that'll be coming through. And they have been very successful when they've been active early, especially when we've seen Contracts and Palafox playing really aggressive roams into the side lanes to get side lane advantages. It's like when Dokla and FBI have been up, and when especially FBI and Ignar have been unlocked on the map, it's been good. And one of the things we posited about Ignar coming into Worlds was that this was a great meta for him because he is by far a better engaged support than he is an enchanter support over the course of his career, and it's been working. It's been working to this point. It again, it just depends on the iteration of NRG. Like, I think Weibo has been relatively consistent in terms of their form. Not to say that form has been super great or anything like that, but they haven't had the wild variance that NRG has had throughout Worlds. And NRG also has ran into kind of an underperforming G2, right? So it is a little bit tough. We did see this match in the first round, and Weibo did, in fact, win it. But the first day of Worlds is always fucking weird because teams that haven't been playing stage games are still figuring out their place in the meta. So I don't want to read too much into a best of one that happened like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Also, again, we talk about the prep. How much of the prep was NRG's 5-man coaching staff, or I guess positional coaches plus their 2 analysts and their head coach? And how much of it was, we got this from Gen G, and we're just going to follow the same blueprint. We'll get to see if they come up with something creative here against Weibo. Dom is right. It's be unique, play to your own drafts, pull out the picks that are going to make them feel uncomfortable. Because as I've done interviews with Eastern teams, I ask straight up, what do you think of North America? And all of them find polite ways to be like, to not highlight their skill, but highlight their drafts and strategies are very creative and unique, and they know how to play that well. That's what they say. And I'm like, okay.
That Palafox quote, that Palafox quote is just the ultimate copy pasta. That he's powerful and seems like a genius.
Yep. Midfielder.
It's so good.
I will say, because I've been taking a lot of public transportation here in Korea because it's everywhere. As I'm sitting on the train or like walking through it, and I put on Gods. It is just exciting to think like, wow, this is the best draw NRG could have gotten again. What if they win again? Like the hopium. It's like straight up hopium. Like I'm straight up huffing hopium, and I don't have my inhaler on me. It's just straight up hopium, and it's just a copium. It's so cool. We could have so cool to have that back again.
KT NRG, and I would have been happy, but instead NRG just gets to play Weibo for some reason. Neat.
Yeah. It's very neat. So I'm just letting everyone know back home, just close your eyes. Yeah, Gods is playing, and just instead of Deft, it's fucking contracts in there, because they're like, Riot is trying to make NRG this year's DRX. They are trying to make contracts this year's Deft. Like, that dude was so unavailable for interviews for like 30 minutes. You're going to see so much like contracts propaganda and stuff coming up soon. Like, then it's like, okay, like I do like that story. That does sound pretty cool. There is a great storyline there. And maybe it gets shut down.
Like Deft for real.
There's a good story there. All right.
Well, this match has extremely good odds, doesn't it, dGon? Are you taking NRG at 4.9? Keeping in mind that I took them at 4.5 last week and actually did hit it. Do you believe 4.9 to 1.135? This feels good for NRG, right?
It does feel pretty good for NRG. Again, remember last week, I was the one that didn't pick Cloud9 and pick Fnatic and was right. So I sadly hit. But you know what? I'm ready for a happy hit. Come here. Where's my hat?
Where's my hat?
We're back. You know what? There are bad losses. There are bad wins. There are good losses. But my God, give me a good win right here. Go ahead. The house. Let's do the house. One thing we got in America, a lot of land. Not a lot of land here in Korea, but a lot of land in America. Let's go ahead and put the house on it. NRG, so I could get 4 houses.
Put 200.
Almost 5.
We'll put 200 on NRG for you, dGon, and we'll see how you do. You are up on both me and Dom, by the way. We've been tweeting out the tables because, I took T1 and Dom took BLG last week, and both of us lost, but you got Fnatic, so there you go.
I again, just to remind everyone, This is fun. We're having fun. Make sure you bet responsibly.
Exactly. We're going long shots today, everybody. We're going long shots. What's the next matchup you want to talk about, dGon?
All right, let's go in order. So our next matchup is one of the favorites, Generation Gaming, against I would say the LNG and T1, but probably one of the best chances to win here in Billy Gaming. Genji getting 1.19 to BLG's 4.08. Dom, let's start with you. I wonder what you're going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think this series really comes down to like, has BLG figured out a way to attack the current meta right now? Because I think the meta is not good for BLG. Like, they never were thriving with control mages mid. And if you think about like Senatom Kench, that's something that counters BLG's style, because BLG is they're the 5 Chinese player team, right? Like, they're the team that wants to fucking team fight and just kill everyone. And when you see champions like Tom Kench, Senna come in, when you have like control mages like Orianna that provide more safety that it's hard to run into, Syndra stuns, which are kind of hard to run into, Azir, it just isn't really their style right now to play into those champs or to play those champs. And I think the thing that we saw from BLG more in the series versus G2 was going back to things like the Talia. That was always something that Yiga was really good at, trying to find good fights with the Talia wall. I think the Talia wall, the Talia is really big pick for them. Ari is a big pick for them. Giving over Maokai potentially and picking Sylas into it is something that they've always liked doing. They could go like their Sylas and Juani, which they've thrived with most of the time. And finding like some type of cohesion with their champions, I think is going to be really important, because Bin is doing his thing. He's still just like absolutely murdering people topside. They just need to find these like mid 2v2s and bot 2v2s that are stable enough to allow Bin to like really carry these games.
I think Bin has been amazing, and people will point out the fact that we saw this matchup at MSI and it was very BLG favored, and we just don't know if Gen G is going to get mind controlled again. I think that's the biggest question. Gen G has played literally the minimum amount of games that you can play at Worlds, right? They played 4 games of League of Legends. At least we got to see an extra game out of JDG because of we got to see 5 games out of them because of the loss to LNG in the best of 3. But it's not like Gen G had a particularly rough road. Like, they beat GAM, they beat T1, an opponent they're very accustomed to, and they don't play weird against other Korean teams. And they had a very dominant series against G2, it must be said, where they did play their style. But BLG at MSI was just this vortex sucking them into the dragon, and I don't know if that's going to happen again or not, right? I think the disappointing thing is that they have collapsed when it mattered, and they have collapsed versus this specific team. Now, was the BLG at MSI in better form? Yes. There's still a lot of questions around BLG, not only in terms of the picks that Dom is pointing out, but also just in terms of some of their play. Like, On has been bad at this event. Elk has not looked up to some of his previous form. They've been trying to force some of Jun's carry junglers as well. I mean, the invade that they had against T1 was a complete disaster in game number 1. So this team, you know, if I'm looking at the way that Billy lost to T1, I'm thinking, hell yes, we are going to be doing front-to-back team fighting, you know, anti-dive compositions and just scale it out, right? I think T1 played BLG very well. And Bin has been a major threat on this team, but Doran's a player who can lose gracefully. Even if he loses lane, he actually is one of the more relevant.
He didn't do it to Bin last time they played. Last time
That's
he
true.
got fucking...
That's true. That's true. But there were more problems. Yeah, there were more problems. And I think Doran actually has been in a much better form towards the end of summer, and especially at World so far. But Gen G is untested, and there's always going to be the questions about Gen G choosing another team's style over their own until we see them not do that, because that has been our experience at Worlds last year and now here, at MSI this year.
Yeah, I would just go back to that last series where Elk just got super set far behind on the Ashe. You're thinking, okay, G2's doing it. They're executing their composition the way they need to, and Elk was still finding ways to I guess, contribute to the fights. I mean, he was playing Ashe, so you just got to land your arrow, but he found ways to get back in it. I think his kind of little inconsistency dip in form compared to Bin, who's been super consistent, and compared to On, who I think is just off, will find a way back on in. But I do think On is struggling. Like, that's tough. It's real tough.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, he's struggling, but he's also struggling because he's playing matchups that are just hard and he doesn't know what to do in them. Like when he's playing Alistar into carry as Tom Kench, like people forgot, but Tom Kench used to be a counter pick to Alistar. Like that was something that if they went Alistar early, you'd pick Tom Kench into Alistar because it's just able to like kite the Alistar. If the Alistar goes in, you can get a huge trade onto him. Alistar combo, like Tom Kench can eat it. You don't do enough damage to actually be able to kill him. So I think that in the series versus T1, like they had the bad dragon fight, but you saw like strengths of BLG. You saw them win the mid 2v2. You saw Bin dominating lane, and then On just like played team fights terribly, but he also was just playing like a hard lane. And I think that this team is inherently countered by champions like Tom Kench, which was picked in both games. So I think I think BLG can make the games look a lot different with just prep. I don't think that there's an issue with like how they actually play the game. Like I think that their style can work. They just need to make the game more around their style and tailor the game into like these 5v5s. And I think it's up to Gen G to take the opposite approach. They need to just try to draft enough of the bullshit, like draft Renata, draft like Azir, just draft champions that make it hard for BLG to play their style. And I think that will be the war in draft.
Yeah, Renata. I think Renata is overprioritized in general right now, but I do agree that Renata is powerful into BLG in particular.
We've got 2 more games to bet on. I've already used my bet. So is this one that either one of you want to wager on?
Although I do think that basically all of the underdogs are worth it just because the odds are so skewed. And one of these is going to be an upset, almost certainly. Like it would be surprising if we had all of the favorites win, but the odds are pretty skewed in 3 of the 4 matchups. They're very even in the T1 LNG series, which again, we will argue about that momentarily.
Also to note, let me think here. I think, although this is listed the other way, Tom, or either one of you, it was the team that was drawn first that has blue side, right? I think, or has side select.
It's the team that was drawn first is for the ones that are even. It's just for the LNG T1 series because the other one have distinct seed differences. So
got it.
The pool 2 was the Weibo was pool 3, and then NRG was pool 2. So NRG should get side select, and then the other 2 teams, Gen G and JDG, are pool 1, so they get side select.
So I think that's something else to consider in terms of, you know, when you're thinking about, hey, what are some strategic edges I can get? NRG was pulled first anyway, so they pulled first and then pulled Weibo. And then who has side select for T1 LNG? I forgot who got pulled first. Was it T1 or was it LNG?
I don't know how they determined that. It was LNG, I believe, that was pulled first. I'm thinking about it from memory.
Okay.
Yeah, LNG was pulled first, and I think they get side select.
All right. Well, there you have it. A lot of blue side wins. Not a lot of innovation yet from the red side that we've seen consistently. Okay, so neither one of you want to take this one. Then we'll go to the next one. JDG and KT Rolster.
All right, I'm doing this. This is my copium.
Wait. Yeah, I know. But I just want everyone to know, as I've like walked to the stadium, like you get closer and closer to where the arena was, I could see people on the train wearing their like LCK shit or they're wearing their KT shit. And so I went to like 10 KT fans, like all Korean speaking or whatever. And I'm like goofy, different looking. And I'm like, hey, are you going to Worlds? They're like, yeah. I was like, oh, are you KT fan? Who's your favorite player? Almost all of them said aiming. I was like, that's weird. And then I said, do you know Kim Monte? And almost all of them go, oh, Kim Monte. Like Monte's fucking famous here with the LCK fans, especially the KT fans. So it's
they know my homerism. Apparently, like a bunch of my predictions got translated over to the Korean message board, and they were. This is very weird. Apparently, they were especially impressed that I called the Fnatic upset over Cloud9. I don't know why they're impressed by that one in particular, but that apparently
predicting an NA team to lose the Worlds. Oh, crazy.
I didn't think that was particularly outrageous. But here's my hot take for KT. Now, I don't think they're going to win, guys, but here follow my train of thought. Now, KT has not been playing the pick compositions that had made them successful. And in fact, I would highly argue that they should not, under any circumstances, play some of the scaling drafts that we saw them, first off, lose to LNG with in the third game, because they basically couldn't keep it in their pants, and they had to go to that second Drake, even though they had already gotten first Drake, so there was really no imperative, and they could have just waited and scaled and gotten ornaments, and then Kiin just inted by teleporting on Ornn. So that game was played badly. Now, when they came to the D+ game and they had the Rise, that's when they showed more poise, giving up the early objectives, maybe too many. We can argue maybe too many, but they did scale into the late game and play effectively, and we didn't see them throw the game early. In fact, KT, in spite of the Hex Tech Soul coming down, I think did about as well as you could have in some of those late game team fights, controlling the Baron. So they showed more discipline, but this is not their identity. Their identity is to create picks, is to get these early Drakes. It's the first two games that we saw against LNG. Now, LNG has identified, for whatever reason, we don't know if they're right or not, it is very difficult to beat JDG if you are going to take a straight up front to back 5v5 win against them. If you're going to match them in that way, I would say it's very, very hard to do that. I hope we don't see KT do that. Instead, LNG has said, we want to take aggressive matchups in the top lane. Well, my guy Kiin can do that. This is the time for the Quinn to come out into the Renekton. And LNG has also said, we want to play pick comps against JDG. Have they won playing the pick comps? No, they have not. But KT is the best pick comp team in Korea. So here's the line of here's my hot take. If LNG is right that pick comps can get early advantages and can win against JDG, and you have seen that JDG does take some bad skirmishes versus pick comps early and often fall behind. If KT is able to do what LNG couldn't, which is close off of those pick comps by either continuing to make picks or creating side lane pressure with advantages, maybe KT can do it. KT might have, weirdly, a stylistic edge if they play into the way that they were doing so well in LCK Summer this year.
I think the problem is that when you look at how KT is forced to draft, they rely on so many weird picks in order to win that I feel like it's very easy for JDG to just ban out the Viego, for example, and just make the game a lot easier for themselves. Also, pick comps are harder. I think one of the players that was the best at creating the picks was BDD. Things like his TF, for example. Just feels like BDD was somebody who he's going to be the guy that's going to be the catalyst for them making these picks happen. And the meta is not conducive to the pick comps as well. And
it's
then
not.
I just feel like
it's an uphill battle.
Yeah. I would say the other problem with KT is that when I'm watching them at this World Championship, they seem very scared. They are not making plays. When you watch the Dom1 series, it feels like they should be playing way more aggressively throughout these games. They'll have advantages and they just keep on struggling to close. They keep on struggling to take fights that make sense. And if Dom1 was a more competent team, I think that series would have at least went to 3 games. When I'm thinking about KT at this tournament too, think about the series that they played against LNG. How is LNG able to hang on for so long in that game 1 and then get a team fight win? If they can't close versus LNG, how are they going to close versus JDG? JDG is the best team in the world at hanging on and then getting a team fight and outplaying you in a team fight. So for me, I think that this is just going to be a really hard match for KT. I think JDG will pretty much smoke them.
Oh man, I'm not ready.
The TF is coming back. It's the TF Talia Quinn series. BDD Zoe on the comeback for the pick comp. Let's go. I think I don't think it's likely. I think JDG is going to win Worlds. Let's be clear. But I do think that there is a potential angle because of the way that LNG has played JDG close this year. I think there is an angle that KT Style might be able to do something. Might. Cuz has also been surprisingly good. In the early game. So
Yep.
That is some copium.
And Kanavi's
We are
bad in the early game. Kanavi has been bad, but it just like kind of doesn't matter, which is like the scary thing about JDG is normally if somebody, and like Ruler hasn't played his best. The thing that's crazy about JDG is like almost never is everyone playing their best. Like
Yep.
you don't see this team have like the five, like unless they
the
play
NRG
GLG.
performance. They don't have the NRG G2 performance. They haven't had that, and they're still smoking everyone.
Yeah, yeah. They like it always looks like somebody's having an off game, and it just doesn't matter. They just look like such a consistent team with the way that they all cover each other. If one guy's having a bad game, somebody else picks up the slack, and they always played the game in a way to incorporate everyone. Even if somebody's playing bad in a moment or has like a bad death, they're always trying to solve the problem together. And I just don't think that KT will be able to make a big enough problem that JDG won't be able to solve it.
We got a good one from chat.
I think look. I think that every other series that KT has played, both in summer playoffs and worlds, they've been the favorite, and the pressure has been on them. Pressure's entirely off now. This is the time for crazy KT shit. All right, the crazy picks are going to come out. I promise you, we're going to see some very specific KT style picks. I pray to God they don't just opt into 5v5 team fighting compositions, but this is the time for them to really like show off the depth of their champion pool and just try for the Hail Mary. And I think they can look. This run was put before KT by God to make sure that they had the hardest worlds ever for any team. And when they win worlds, we will all look back and agree that this was the toughest way to win worlds that could possibly exist and will ever exist again. Their world's victory will be undeniable. 200 onto KT.
We had a commenter say, "Oh yeah, Monte's just saying he's guaranteeing stylistic edging by KT." That's the
That's what they do. KT
here.
edges you, except there is no release at the end most of the time.
Yeah.
It's the blue balls.
Yeah, but it'll change when they play against the best team of all time. Surely they won't just get like 3-0'd brutally.
Surely not.
Monte, what is your top 5 KT players in each role? Or give me your best player in each role all time. There we go. That's what I was asking fans. Yeah, for KT. And I'll tell you.
Well, I mean, a lot of them are just going to be from the 2018 roster, right? Smeb, arguably the best top laner of all time. Like, you know, Mata, arguably one of the best, if not the best supports of all time. Man, I have to go back and look through. Huh? Score. Sure. Love Score. Love me some Score. Too bad he's on Gen G now. Didn't come back into the KT fold. Best mid laner might be a bit harder because KT always kind of under rookie. That's true. Well, not when he was playing though. The thing he was on KT, he was good, but he wasn't as good at that time. But yeah, I think probably you're right.
He won a championship on KT.
He did. The one of the worst teams to ever win a championship in Korea, but yes, that did in
the
fact
hardest
happen.
split that Korea's ever had.
That was a very strange anomaly.
Yeah.
That was a very strange win. Yeah, but I agree. It's probably his rookie. And what? You probably say Deft 80 carry.
Yep.
So a lot of them did not consider rookie. They would say Yucal was probably their mid laner. And then they threw no one really picked against. One person said Someday. And I was like, that's cool, but not right. It's Smeb.
I think people don't remember that rookie played on KT.
That's fair. But yeah, but they're the ones going to the those are the fans. They're going to the stadium. These are like they paid the money to buy the jerseys. They paid the money to get the tickets. Like I feel like they would know. And then lastly, again, a lot of them said aiming as their AD carry. They struggled with support. Like I was like, oh, it's Mata, right? And that would take them the longest time to think about. But Smeb Score was really easy. Yucal was surprisingly easy. And then after that, aiming was easy. And then they struggled at support. So it's kind of interesting. All right. Last one. And I'll go interview more like fans as we get closer to Busan and I can update. So everyone's like, what idiots or whatever. We got LNG T1. LNG underdogs 1.92 against T1's 1.76. T1 did look pretty good in their last series on out. But we made fun of it, right? We were like, oh yeah, T1, the odds are being inflated by the Korean fans. Also, yes, loudest cheers were for Deft and Damwon, D plus in that series, especially when they started the comeback on Aphelios when Aiming lost his fucking mind and wall rode right into him. But the T1 fans are just the interview was with Faker. It was goosebumps. It was just straight goosebumps. It was cool. It was really, 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 really cool.
But
who do we got?
Don't worry, dGon. LNG, who has played JDG extremely closely. I suppose T1 did play a close series versus JDG at MSI, to be fair, but they were better at that time. Yep. Don't worry, T1 is in fact the odds favorite yet again in this matchup, 1.767 to 1.925. How does this keep happening?
Because they have a lot of fans. Period. We've talked it to death. You just have to look at spring finals. Spring finals odds, that was all you need to know, that T1 will just always have ridiculous odds in their favor. Which is good if you think that they're dog shit. Like if you're Forest Within over the last year, you probably made a lot of money off T1.
Well, we also have a guy who thinks they're dog shit. So Dom, why don't you go first? Yeah. How do you feel about this matchup?
I think this matchup is interesting. Like T1, I think they were playing kind of poorly earlier in the tournament, but I think that versus BLG, they kind of they figured out what works for them, which I feel like is what a lot of teams are going to do throughout the tournament. We saw like JDG kind of doing it by going back to the Wukong, T1 going back to the Tom Kench, both games versus BLG. I think that's really important. If you think about even just historically, they love playing Jinx Tom Kench. They've played that. They were playing that at MSI like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. They were playing a ton of Jinx Tom Kench. Tom Kench is such a good champion for T1 because Guma has no brain, and Tom Kench allows him to have no brain and sometimes live, which is very unique.
Don't forget the Thresh. That's the other one.
Yeah, just Thresh is just worse right now than Tom Kench. Thresh is just not a great champion. It has a lot of counters. So I think that R5 support is really good for T1, and I think it comes down to will LNG actually be able to figure out what works for them, because Tarzan's had a pretty bad tournament. Like he has not been playing well overall.
AFK Jarvan.
Yeah, his AFK Jarvan. I mean, Jarvan, he just doesn't look good at Jarvan. Kanavi doesn't look good at Jarvan. Like, I don't know. Some of these players are kind of just inting when they get the pick. And I think Scout and Tarzan, which was a huge strength, like their synergy together, they just haven't really shown up together like at all at this tournament. Like Scout's had some decent games, but they haven't done anything together. They haven't been like taking over games mid jungle 2v2. So I think a lot of the series comes down to like, can LNG figure out what works for them? Like, are they going to be able to go back to, maybe like Scout, Ari, Tarzan, Vi, and try to create drafts that make sense for that? Because if not, it feels like T1 just is ahead of them in terms of understanding who they are and like what they need to do to make their team function.
Well, we're also still not really seeing people like attacking Faker's champion pool either, which I find to be very confusing, such as when we saw Billy in the second game of the series. So T1 bans the Nico, Billy bans the Azir. But what's the point of banning the Azir if you're just going to give T1 Orianna on red side? It doesn't feel like we've seen the same pressure on Faker's champion pool, and I would like to see that in this series versus LNG, because to Dom's point, that this year as a whole, that has been LNG's primary win condition is Tarzan and Scout just taking over the games. I think Scout's been very good, and obviously Gala has been excellent, right? And it's going to be... the laning phase is going to be much more interesting because while Elk and On have been underperforming relative to their regular season strength in the LPL, we've seen very, very good things from Gala at this tournament, and he certainly, I think, is going to have more answers. But the danger of KT, or danger of T1 rather, is that they are actually kind of reverting to 2022, some of the greatest hits from 2022, when they were completely dominating with Caitlyn. People will remember that T1 as a team was like undefeated with Caitlyn for a long period of time. Obviously, part of that was the Caitlyn support earlier this year. but it was a feared pick from Gumayushi last year. And his Jinx has always been one of his best picks as well. And T1 is very good at peeling for him. Now, we also see Owner having some pop-off Jarvan games. His Lee Sin is also a threat. So it does feel that the meta is drifting in T1's favor. And because they've been the same roster of players for such a long time, they know how to play these picks just basically instantly, right? They can just go back. They have run these style of compositions. It just wasn't this year, but they know how to play around each other because it's still the same lineup. It's the same roster with that same synergy and knowledge.
Fans chiming in on the Faker pick or the Faker focus on his champ pool. He's had a champ ocean in the past. He really can't focus his champ pool, but do we say, dare we say it? This is not Faker of old. This is Faker in 2023.
He was having a very good split in spring. I think it's fair to say that Faker was having his best split in the last 4 or 5 years in spring, but ever since the injury, he hasn't been entirely up to speed. And if we look at he's only played 3 champions at World so far. He's played Sylas, Azir, and 3 Orianna games. And you have to, and by the way, his Sylas game, he did fucking nothing. It was the C9 game where he was like stealing Bel'Veth ult and just like flopping around under turret with it. But he didn't have to do anything in that game because the rest of his team basically just won the game for him. So not to say he had a bad game, but it didn't matter what he was playing or what he was doing. So I think for Faker, he can play the Nico. He can play the Azir. These are the things that powered the wins over KT that were banned subsequently by Gen G in the finals. And Orianna is his most played champion of all time, right? So actually, I think it's Azir now, but he is an iconic Orianna player is the point. He's been playing it forever, and he can slot back into that. And it helps, certainly, that it's his 3rd most played now after Azir and Ryze. It helps that control mages are now much more part of the meta, and that is going to be something that Faker can lean into as a crutch. But I want to see more bans targeted at Faker. I want to see the Orianna taken away from him. And if you're not going to do that, then just don't ban the Azir. Like, don't do it. Why was BLG banning the Azir if you're just going to hand him over the Orianna? Target somebody else.
Yeah. Like, what would you drop instead? Because we're not you're not sending 3 bans Faker's way and then picking mid first. That doesn't seem to be there when you've got Rumble up, the Xayah that has been problematic. Caitlyn, as we said with Gumayushi, it just feels like you can't send
Guma is also a very good Xayah player. He's also a very good Xayah player. And he's been the most consistent player this year. So, but my point is that if you're not going to ban the Faker, then don't like half-ass ban Faker. Just let him have whatever he wants to have and ban some of the other power picks, because picks like Caitlyn, Rumble, Xayah, Tom Kench, Goom is also a good Senna player, Jinx. These are going to be picks that they are super comfortable on.
All right, let's go to picks time. So, Monte, you already put your pick down in the previous match for KT. It's your Hopium take. Dom, is this your underdog pick here for LNG?
Yeah, I'll take LNG here. I'll take LNG in the series. I mean, it's once again something where it's not that I even think that they're going to win. I just like their odds more. Like, I think this is a 50-50. I think if this was like LNG at 1.8, I might take something else. I might bet on like sometimes I look at game time like unders with T1 because they normally play quick games when they win and they like play quick games when they lose. But I think that on these odds 1.9, I would go with like a bet on LNG based off the fact that I just think that they should be even or slight favorites.
All right, there you go. Those are our picks for this week's quarterfinal matches. A top 8 with a North American team in it. Feels good after a disappearance for a couple of years, and the best matchup that could possibly be there. For those of you that are superstitious, yes, Kobe is on the broadcast for this first match. I will also say, to take that superstition a step further, Kobe has also been involved with the matches that get teams eliminated after that match. So, the Kobe thing is meh. That's why the Azael thing, everyone's like, oh, Azael's on the broadcast, they're out, they're done, which happened again with Cloud9. So I think that's dumb.
I did enjoy that Azale tweeted that he had never in 8 years cast NA winning an international best of series and then
Or it's happened one
promptly.
time.
What?
Well, I mean, it's happened like one time if you want to talk about like actual
Sure.
wins and not just like they won play-ins versus like the Vietnamese 7th seed.
But I don't even think he's casted those games, right? He said he had never like casted an international best of series where NA had won, and he was obviously very excited that TL was the favorite against GAM, and then he just casts GAM shitting on TL. I did have a chuckle. Man, that guy's unlucky. He's getting chicken nugget, grape pad thai, GAM, casting GAM, upsetting Team Liquid. Azale's having a rough time in Korea. Send prayers for Azale.
It'll be all right. All right, y'all. That's the episode. A full-on episode here. Thanks to our friends and sponsors over at eSportsBet and, of course, Trolley. Thank you for supporting us throughout. Again, make sure to like and subscribe this channel here. Follow Dom for his content and his co-streams. Monte does the Monte recap afterwards. So if you want to not watch it or don't want to kill your schedule, Monte does the recap afterwards. It's really fun.
Yeah, I've been doing just VOD reviews of all the games in the morning KST. So in the morning Korean time, and which is very good time for NA, by the way, because I start at like 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern a lot of the time. And it's been great. My viewership has been pretty good for a guy who never, ever streams. And it's been fun to review those games on stream. So if you're in NA and the games are at horrible times for you, rest assured that you can look at the results by the time you wake up. But by that evening, I will be there doing live VOD reviews and chatting with you guys in Twitch chat. So it's been really fun.
Dom, how's the sack been?
It's been good. Been good. We've been having like perks on pretty much all the time. We've had perks, Wonder, Yankos jump in. I'm really looking forward to watching the rest of the LEC teams with my full LEC sack at this tournament. So it'll be really good.
Something for them to look forward to. Well, you already know here. Make sure to tune in for the post-game conversation when Contracts takes down Weibo, whatever that is. In that next round. The interviews honestly have been a lot of fun. It's been really insightful. I've been making behind the scenes content and doing a like one word recap with pros and your favorite personalities in the league space. That's been up on YouTube Shorts and on TikTok, and I'll post some of those to Twitter. But other than that, God bless the USA. God bless America. God bless NRG. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see y'all next week for another episode of Power Spike. Thank you.